Good afternoon. My name is Sue, and I'm a cancer researcher. Growing up, my parents always told me, you can. Whatever it is that you try to do, you can. Don't worry about it, you can. But growing up in the 1970s, you really have to figure out what do you want to do, right? Because most of the time, people refer to you and say you can do four things: become a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, maybe an engineer. But anything outside these four things, well, not sure exactly what you're going to do with your life. So what did I do? Well, the reality is that I skipped out of school a lot. I played a lot of badminton. I played a lot of netball. I tried many different things. I even knitted. For crying out loud, I even knitted. I spent time knitting during my holidays. But I love doing different things. And the reality is I didn't actually know what I wanted to be. Did I want to be a doctor? Did I want to be a painter? Did I want to be an architect? I simply did not know what I was going to be. But the reality is when push came to shove, when thinking about what I wanted to be when I grew up, the reality is I came from a middle-income country. I came from a middle-income family, and I didn't really know whether I'll ever have the resources to go into university. So the reality is my future looked like this. I was looking forward to a future where perhaps I'll be a good daughter, I'll be a good wife, I'll be a good mother. Not a bad future, right? To be one of these three things. And if I had enough time, maybe a good sister, a good friend, maybe a good person. I'll be able to do good work for charity, and so on and so forth. Well, was that the reality that I would live up to? Well, many things in my life changed because of a number of events that took place early on in my life. So at 13, I won the ASEAN Scholarship and went to Singapore, unexpectedly. At 19, I won a Yayasan Saimdabi Scholarship and I went to Cambridge, unexpectedly. And then at 22, I won a scholarship from the Wellcome Trust and went on to do my PhD. At 25, I finished my PhD and won an award from the Royal Society and went on to build my career as a scientist in Cambridge. And I was suddenly, whoa, where did I get to? What happened to the dream of becoming a daughter, a wife, and a mother? Well, that was always still there because fundamentally, I had a lot of fears. Fundamentally, I still projected myself first as a woman, then very, very far along there. I might have a career, but I was very, very far behind. So the reality is, what would I want to do now? I was at crossroads. Luckily, I met the man of my dreams, and I had to make a choice. Do I really want to be a daughter, a wife, and a mother? Or did I have ambitions to use all the opportunities that were given to me and build a career and chart a very different path? So this is me at 28. At 28, I was approached by Tan Sri Tunku Ahmad Yahya, a man who really changed my life because he was the one who set up the Yayasan Saimdabi Scholarship that changed a lot of people's lives because they gave them the opportunity to go to somewhere like Cambridge. Well, before I went to Cambridge, I didn't even go on an aeroplane. So it wasn't a time where everybody could fly. It was a time when, seriously, the holidays that you took were Port Dickson and Malacca and maybe occasionally to Kuantan. It wasn't a time where everyone could fly. So my first flight was from Malaysia to London to go to university. But then Tunku then said, well, at 28, he said, well, we've been approached to set up a fundraiser to raise money to work on oral cancer. So how about you help me with this fundraiser? So I said, well, at 28, I have nothing to lose. I got a Yayasan Saimdabi scholarship. It's time I pay back, right? Do something in return. So I helped him for the next 2 years. We talked to a lot of philanthropists. We talked to Tun Mahathir. We talked to an amazing group of people with the idea that at that time, 20 years ago, there was hardly any research done on cancer in Asians. Why? Because the money was all in the US, in North America, in Japan maybe, and in Australia. And where the money is, the research will go. There was simply no money to do any research in Asia. So why would I want to do this in Malaysia? And he had 3 simple words. Because you can. And I was like, me? Seriously? Me? I'm 28 years old. What do I know? I left the country when I was 13 years old. I barely felt that I was Malaysian. Most of my friends were either from Singapore or from all over the world because I met them all in Cambridge. What would I know about curing cancer? Curing cancer? Seriously? Everyone called it the big C. The big C, like the big bad wolf, right? It is the big C. It's an incurable disease. What difference could we make in Malaysia? The reality is all of the money is in, you might think about it. You might want to cure cancer if you're in Cambridge, if you're in Harvard, if you're in Mayo, if you're maybe in the Riken Institute, etc. But in Malaysia, that seemed like an impossible dream. So what we set out to do was to achieve the impossible. And we set ourselves to have a mission that we would actually set up a non-profit cancer research organization that will focus on cancers as they occur in Asians. Simply because Asians make up 60% of the world's populations, we make up close to 50% of the cancer cases, but a larger proportion of the cancer deaths. The reality is that nobody thought we could make something impactful. After all, research isn't something that you do in a low-income country. Research is something that's considered a dispensable luxury only when you are in a high-income country. When you're philanthropists like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or the Rockefeller Foundation. But in a country like Malaysia, sure, can you reverse cancer? The expression is very much, sure more. So also my son tells me, I'm sure I did not execute that well. But the reality is today, we have made some significant milestones. Today, we now lead the largest Asian breast cancer genetic study. We're the only group to have won an award from the Wellcome Trust. We have 16,000 women in our genetic studies, and we're going to be able to be creating a risk calculator that enables every individual woman to understand what her risk of cancer is and what she can do about it. We've launched the first cancer prevention trial in Asia. We've enabled Angelina Jolie's from Malaysia. 50,000 Malaysians inherit the same gene as Angelina Jolie. And before we came along, services were not available. Now they are available in 25 centers around the country. All because we had the audacity to believe that we can do something about cancer research in Asians. We've now created the largest genomic map of Asian breast cancers. Why did we set out to do this? Because genomics is transforming our ability to choose the right treatment for the right patient, but 95% of the research was done in Caucasians. We simply did not know whether the genetic basis of cancers in Asians was the same. We set out to painstakingly collect tumor samples, one patient at a time, store it meticulously away, and now using big data and genomic technology, we found out the Asian breast cancers are a little bit different. And we're using this information to choose new treatment options that may actually improve the outcome for these patients. And by end of this year, we'll be launching our first clinical trial. It's been really difficult, but why has it been worthwhile doing it? Well, we work on other cancers that specifically affect the Asian population. We work on oral cancer because 80% of oral cancers occur in Asians. And working on oral cancers, we now know that we can develop a vaccine. We have a vaccine that we've developed that, at least in animal models, seem to completely eradicate the formation of that cancer. How are we doing this? We're now taking it forward, hopefully into the first human trials, all of which was discovered right here in Malaysia. So when people tell us, you can't, maybe not, maybe you should have stayed on in Cambridge, I would say, actually, no. It was the right decision to come back to Malaysia. Fearful as it is when you're 28 and put a plan together, it is of course scary. But the reality is, as soon as I came back, I realized that actually my life was very much of a waste. I wasn't making an impact. Even though we had made so many discoveries in the laboratory, at my heart, I really felt that we were missing the target. And why was that? Well, because the reality is that 70% of the deaths occur still in low and middle income countries. The reality is that Malaysia still has one of the poorest survival of cancer in the region. How can I continue making discoveries in the laboratory? How can I continue pushing frontiers in science if in my own backyard, women's lives are being lost because of inactions? Men's lives are being lost because of inaction. Children's lives are being lost because simply we don't have a good enough cancer control plan. So on the reality, I felt like a failure. I felt that the work that I had been doing in the lab did not make any difference, and I was simply wasting my life. Then Santa came to town. Well, not quite. But a bunch of young ladies came to town, and they were the golf players. They were ladies, professional golf players, and Sime Darby was bringing them into town because they wanted to organize the Sime Darby LPGA tournament. And surprisingly, they came to me and said, "It's happening in October. Would you like to do something?" So here I was, a laboratory scientist, know nothing about healthcare systems, know nothing about poverty, and I was asked to say, what would you want to raise the money for? We desperately needed money in the lab. Without that money in the lab, we would have closed the lab. But on heart, I really wanted to help poor people. So what we set about to do was to raise money for a new idea, a patient navigation program, where we would put the patient in the center and organize all services around that woman so that there was no excuse for her not to get that treatment. So that, for example, she got the counseling that she needed, she got a taxi driver to take her to hospital, she got someone to cook food for her so that she could go for treatment, and if she needed care, we would go and do the home visits for her. And all of this wasn't done by us. We just put it together so that all the 30 partners that were already doing good work knew where to go to be able to channel those services to help the women. And why did I do it? Because I can. Because I had a voice. And by this time, I realized that it wasn't about me. It was about my ability to convince people to come along with me on this journey. It was never been about me. When you're young, you're very egoistical and you think everything is about you. But suddenly you grow up and you realize that actually nobody's looking at you. Everyone's looking at themselves. And everyone's looking for a channel where they can make a contribution. And in my life, now I recognize that it's actually about making those opportunities available for a lot more other people. So it's been really great that we've been able to empower nurses, doctors, community workers to work together for the Patient Navigation Center. We're already improving the outcome for poor women in one hospital. We're expanding to 4 other centers, and hopefully this will now continue into a national policy, scale up, and help more people overall. So for me, the fight against cancer has happened on 2 fronts. On one front, challenging the frontiers that we can do good science in Malaysia, and on the other front, reaching out to the community and finding sustainable ways of serving the poor, because both of those fronts are really important if we're going to be able to fight cancer. But I like to say to you, I really got to where I am on a very unconventional path. Remember, I am a failure if you were to think about the 4 jobs that you want to do, right? From that front, if you were to measure me, I'm an absolute failure. But from an unscripted path, what lessons can I learn? I would be a fool to think that I made this happen. Such an egoistical thought that I made it happen. In reality, my journey of going beyond the borders and pushing the frontiers has taught me 3 small lessons. The first is, it's been all about people. I've been really fortunate in my life because I've been surrounded by people who can say, can. Why cannot? Can. Everything has always been can. Everything has always been, you got nothing to lose. Your ego gets slightly bruised, but actually you got nothing to lose. Put your ego aside for a while and just do. And that's been fantastic. Tan Sri Tunku Ahmad here, my current bosses, our donors from Saim Darby Berhad to Yayasan Petronas to Estee Lauder. I'll be here for the next 20 minutes if I recite all of our donors. But there are just so many people who have either run for us, sold a t-shirt for us, bought a pin for us. Our donors make our work possible. And of course, our dedicated doctors, our scientists, our team, our nurses, our students, and so on and so forth. So the lesson here is surround yourself with people who are positive, optimistic, and importantly, they have the audacity to believe in the impossible. Lesson number 2, I have a lot of fears. I don't know about you, I've never gone bungee jumping, I've never jumped off an aeroplane, but I thought I should put up that image. Maybe I should do it before I'm 50. But it's all been about confronting my fear of failure. You know, it's really difficult to succeed if you constantly fear failure, because you stop trying new things. So you got to work on your self-talk. All of us have a little voice that talks to us, you know, all the way while I'm sitting outside there, I'm like thinking, shit, I have no idea what I'm going to say, I'm so nervous, etc. But the reality is that self-talk needs to be converted from something that is negative and fearful to something that is all positive. Push yourself outside and beyond your comfort zone. And finally, find your strength and find what is it that really makes you work, what makes you tick, and make your strength a superpower. You know, when I was young, I really used to think that, okay, if I'm weak in math, I go for math tuition because I want to get an A in math, right? But actually, growing up, I now know that that's a wrong principle. If I'm really good in math, I should absolutely have math tuition because math should be my superpower. So don't work on your weaknesses, work on your strengths. I know you all want to have a string of A's, all of us do. My 2 teenagers want to have a string of A stars. But the reality is, we actually need to find out what we're good at, and we need to make those good things superpowers. So what got me here isn't going to get me there. And what is going to get me there is building a team, building the next generation of leaders, of cancer researchers who continue to make an impact. I got to where I am not because of ambition. I did not set out to be a cancer researcher. I did not set out to make an impact. But I had a duty or responsibility to pay back for all of the opportunities that were given to me. And in a sense, you could say that what motivated me were three things. One, the community. Two, needing to feel a connection. And three, love. What are these three things? They're the sort of things that you hear about in eulogies and that you put on your obituary. So you could argue that what motivated me wasn't success to put in my resume, but a sense that I wanted my life to be well spent. There are a heck of a lot of causes out there that you can spend your life in. You can spend your life saving the environment. You can spend your life making economics work so that people stop being poor. You can spend your life finding a cure for cancer. It doesn't matter what it is. I think the journey that I have learned in my life is that find your passion, because when you do, you will be able to do the things that are right. So because you can, you must do the right thing. I hope you too will find a passion, and when you do, move forward and serve the community. Thank you.